Welcome to this episode of Bounded in a Nutshell. Remember to take a moment to click on the link below to donate to a very special organization. Figure Skating in Harlem is the first organization in the world to combine the power of education with the grace and discipline of figure skating. It is dedicated to developing confidence, leadership, and academic achievement in young girls from low-income backgrounds. The numerous stories of success from its alumni owe a great deal to the unique blend of mentoring and self-expression that is championed by FSH. Remember, no donation is too small or too large to keep the dream alive for these exceptional young girls. Thank you very much. Enjoy the show. Okay, so my second guest today is an actor, writer, and director. He received the Tony nomination for Best Featured Actor for his portrayal of Musa in Rajiv Joseph's Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, opposite Robin Williams. His other Broadway credits include his portrayal of Richard Saad in Stephen Karam's Humans. He won an Obie for his portrayal of Babur in another Rajiv Joseph play, Guards of the Taj. Other off-Broadway credits include Food and Fadwa, The American Pilot, Leia, and The Persians. His film credits include Arranged, The Christians, Rhodey, Rock of Casbah, and Abe. On television, he has appeared in Law and Order Special Victims, Late Night with Conan O'Brien. I need to ask you about that.
Yeah, I did that for a while.
The Following, Believe, The Blacklist, and Elementary. He played Mo Mohammed Al-Wash in Madam Secretary, as well as playing Stewie Hosseini on the highly acclaimed HBO series Succession. Arian will also be seen in the upcoming Netflix and Shonda Rhimes drama Inventing Anna. Arian also sits on the board of directors for the civic-minded theater group Waterwell, which he co-founded with current executive producer of the Shakespeare Festival in St. Louis, Tom Ridley. It's a pleasure to have you, Arian, and you're the only guest I've had on this show that I don't know personally.
Oh,
you came completely recommended
fresh.
by Michelle, who, really believes she runs this show anyway. But I'm so glad we could join you because I have been a fan of your work from afar.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about the young Arian. I mean, was this going to be what you did, acting? I mean, where did it start? I mean, I know you're half Persian, right?
I'm full Persian.
You're full Persian. Oh, okay. So
I was born in Iran.
Grew up there at all, or did you grow up? Were you born here or there?
I was born there. I was born in Iran, and then we came here when I was 6 years old. Right. I have 3 siblings. My brother Omid, my other brother Amir, and my sister Homera, and they are 17, 18, and 20 years older than me.
Wow. So you were really the baby.
My parents were married in Iran in a time period where they got an arranged marriage. So they were married at a very, very young age and had kids. My mom had 3 kids before 20 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And then had me when she was 35. So that's kind of like the upbringing. And then we grew up in Iran, and we were in the middle of a war. My brother Omid, who's a doctor down in DC, he fought in the Iran-Iraq War.
Oh my God.
Yeah, for a couple years. And then we just kind of got here. We got to the States, and we basically, I lived in a north suburb of Chicago in a very predominantly, just upper middle class place. But my family, who were real immigrants, I mean, they didn't, my parents didn't my mom didn't graduate middle school, we grew up literally on the other side of the highway. In an apartment complex in this nice fancy neighborhood with all these other immigrants. So I grew up with every immigrant under the sun in this apartment complex called Salem Walk.
Right.
And that was
Salem Walk. Wow.
And that's kind of that place. And there were Orthodox Jews, there were Jehovah's Witnesses, there were Korean, Black, Hispanic. It was all of the poor and minority folks lived in this, area. But we all got to go to the public schools. We all got to go to the free, nice, predominantly white public schools. And so,
what was that like in this?
Odd.
I mean, I had a guest, Bruce Norris, yesterday that talked about how the zoning techniques in Texas that's how they kept people like you, immigrants and stuff, out of the schools. I mean, what was that like for you?
Well, you know, Salem Walk is, just to give you an idea, is in a neighborhood called unincorporated Northbrook to this day. It's called unincorporated Northbrook because neither Northbrook nor Glenview kind of wants to deal with it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So we're kind of like, yeah. It was awkward. It was so awkward and so, you know, I mean, you know, Iran in the 80s and the early 90s was about as bad of a word that you can possibly say. So even at a very young, I mean, I tell this story all the time, but you know, my name in Farsi is Arian. That's how people should pronounce it. Arian. That's how yeah. Right. But in America, nobody could do that, nor can you spell that especially with parents that don't speak English.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So at 7 years old, I just decided, a 7-year-old me decided, you know what? The easiest way to say my name is Arian. So a 7-year-old just decided that from now on, call me Arian. And so now I'm 40. And now I'm like, everyone's like, why are they saying your name wrong? It's like, because at a young age, I so desperately did not want to be any more different than we already were.
Yeah.
You know, bluntly, that like, you know, I just made a split decision. You know, I'm like burned out by that, but I'm also kind of like, that was the decision a 7-year-old did to survive in that neighborhood. I mean, like, it wasn't
have you considered, I know with me personally, it wasn't the same sort of thing, but I remember my name is Chukwudi, but I went to an American school and they would just call me Chuck. And I kept that. And then I remember casting my first, in drama school, I met with an agent and they said, oh, no one's ever going to remember Chukwudi Iwuji. You got to keep Chuck. You got to make that your. So for the longest time, my professional name was Chuck Iwuji. And then my mom, who passed away about 10 years ago of cancer, I remember just one day while she was ill, just randomly, just saying, you know, Chukwudi is a beautiful name. And from then on, I've introduced myself as Chukwudi to all new acquaintances, and old acquaintances can call me whatever they like, but professionally it's Chukwudi. Have you ever thought have you ever wondered about, because Ariane is beautiful, you know what I mean? Have you ever thought of, it doesn't bother you either way right now?
It's so, no, it bothers me both ways, mostly because as I'm reflecting back, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm just one person of millions of young immigrant Americans now that have done this. Yes. And so that's the journey I'm at right now, trying to understand, like, holy shit, like, this is how society is built on and things are forgotten. And so I'm paying that back kind of by my kids go to Farsi school. I'm deeply involved, you know, in the Iranian community. I work alongside them. That's one. Secondly, you know, my name is one thing. You know, so about a decade ago, I found out that they got my birth dates wrong. So about 10
But in a complimentary way or in a detrimental way?
I am. Well, I'm 2 days older in real life. So
okay, that's 2 days. That's all right.
No, but on my paperwork it says April 15th, April 15th, April 15th. And then all of a sudden we found our birth certificate that was lost in the mix, and then finally found like a decade ago. And right there in Farsi and in English, it says April 13th.
Oh, wow.
And so like, everyone's like, are you going to change your date back? And you're like, not really. I mean, not like the amount of fucking.
If it had bumped me a couple of years, maybe, but a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. If all of a sudden this conversation means that I'm like 27.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah,
definitely.
Definitely. So tell me, I mean, look, one of my dearest friends in the world is half Persian, Iranian for people who are Persian, but you guys have, I mean, predating by 3 centuries, Chaucer, you had, you know, people like, you know, what's his name, Ferdowsi, then you had Rumi, you know, you had the Book of Kings, you had Rumi with his odes. I mean, the oral tradition, the Nakali tradition with music and a guy going around. I mean, you guys predate theater. So when you decided to become an actor, how was that taken at your family at home?
It was taken okay. Here's the thing. My parents had bragging rights because they already had a brother that was a doctor.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
So I tell this story to everyone, and I hope you appreciate it. Grew up in a north suburb of Chicago, and my mom's job was essentially in childcare, and she worked at this, like, it's called the Pink Room at the Gertrude Nielsen Child Care Center. Basically like a baby room where she, like, professionals would, like, drop off their baby from, it's like a daycare from, ages 6 months to, like, 2. And one day I'm in college and I'm starting to be an actor, but my other brother just became a doctor. And I'm in college and I said to my mom comes out and she goes, "You're never going to believe this," in Farsi. She goes, "One of the kids that I'm representing is one of the producers of the Oprah show, the Oprah Winfrey show." And I was like, "Oh, whoa, cool. Yeah. So did you mention that you have a son that's, like, in the arts and wants to get into all that?" He goes, "No, but I did mention that I have a son that's a doctor."
Doctor.
And I said, what the fuck did she care about that?
Yeah.
But it's care about that.
Those parents, there's 3 professions, right? Doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. And
yeah, exactly.
I guess the thing about being the younger, I was the second to last. I have a baby sister, I was the last boy. And even she wanted to be a doctor. They tick the boxes with everyone else. I can go off and do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah, they're like, whatever, this guy.
Whatever, we're good. We have bragging rights,
Yeah. Well, a lot of it was also, I kind of, as a very young age, there's so much, like, little mini traumas as immigrants. Do you know what I mean? There's so many mini things, like, at the gas station and saying the wrong thing and people making, like, there's so many things. So I knew at a very young age, I think, like, I had a deep sense of, like, how hard it is to be an immigrant, maybe, like, especially all these communities, and seeing all those, like, that, and, like, I just, like, knew that if I could make people laugh even at a very young age, it would, like, get rid of any of the fucking, the bullshit tension of, and it's not like, "You fucking asshole, racist term. It's the micro cuts that really hurt, my mom and my dad. You know what I mean? Because, and so at a young age, I was just like, "Oh, make them laugh, just totally in the rain that." And then, and that, and, like, understanding fucking, empathy a little bit just from, like, all these immigrants. We didn't name it that, but that's what I was watching. I was watching people, like, take care, like, the immigrant community in the Salem Walk, we all took care of each other. You know what I mean? Like, we like, "Oh, you need some help." The Taiwanese family, Ho Chi's family, like, we all, like, helped each other out. The parks, the cooks, like, we all did eat, each other up. And so we understood how to be helpful, and that, and, like, trying to make them laugh. And also, I'm going in a mile a minute, but it's just getting me going. But the other thing is,
no, please.
In Iran, like, in the 70s, everything is, like, 10, 15 years, entertainment wise, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so my parents grew up on Charlie Chaplin, Lucille Ball. And so that's what I watched as a kid.
Right.
So I'm like, 8, 9, 10. All I'm watching is, like, Singing in the Rain and Sound of Music. I mean, literally all, and, like, the most contemporary thing, which is also, like, 15 years old, was Three's Company. And they were showing things that language skills were not necessarily important. Universality of, like, Lucille Ball, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need super language skills to understand what the hell's going on, or even Three's Company in a way. So, and that was kind of my upbringing, and that's kind of led to just more and more. And then I just found, how we all are here. Like, we found a community, and, like, in high school, we found a community of fucking people that give a shit about the theater. And then that went on to college. I went to Indiana University, and then that I kept on doing that. And, at a young age, I read this book called, Robert Rodriguez wrote this book called Rebel Without a Crew, which is about how he made El Mariachi, his, like, first movie, for, like, $7,000 of essentially, like, drug money. And at the end of this book, it says, like, how to be a great film director. And it's like, to be a great film director, you got to make, like, 15, 17, 18 bad movies. And my 17-year-old self, like, it completely, how those moments, I was like, "Oh, I got it. I understand what to do now." And so I went to Indiana University. I didn't get accepted anywhere, but luckily, because I got to Indiana University and I did 15 shows there. You know what I mean? And then, at Indiana. Yeah, go for it, Chuck. Chukwudi.
So tell me a little, I mean, look, you came to recognition, shall we say, doing things like, Bengal Tiger and working with Rajiv, who happens to know this, a dear friend of mine who's from Cleveland that I went to college with. Is really weird, the connections.
Oh, weird.
All right, this is the part I'm going to talk about with your background and stuff, and in this industry and how it might have changed going forward. I remember my early career in London. All my Middle Eastern or Indian or whatever friends, work suddenly kicked in for them after 9/11.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Suddenly they were working, playing what sort of roles and stuff and that. And then that died. It was popular for a while, then it died, then it became the usual. How has it been for you when you're not playing roles, food and fadwa and stuff? How was it for you? How is it now being a Persian actor in the industry?
That's a great question. I think, after Indiana, I came to New York and I knew nobody. And it was a year after 9/11, and Tom Ridgely and I, who's now the executive artistic director at Shakespeare St. Louis, we started Waterwell. And that was really a company less about like our acting careers or our artistic careers, more a company to do what the Greeks did back in the day, 22-year-olds. And, and that was in 2002, and it's 2020. And 18 years this company has been pumping. I mean, this last weekend, we just did an entire series of conversations and shows for servicemen, women, and veterans called Fleet Week Follies, an annual event that Waterwell does, where Brandon Victor Dixon and Freestyle Love Supreme, I'll make sure to, chat up some videos in this.
Please.
And at a very young age, it was all about more about putting theater into the communities and really kind of like broadening the horizons of what it was. I mean, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing, but we were 22 and we did it, And 18 years later, and we run a huge, education program. And we wrote and directed and created and produced our own shows. And the fifth show we did was The Persians that you mentioned. The Persians got me signed by like a huge agency. You know what I mean? Got huge. Yeah. I was at 25 years old. I was like with like the top 2 agencies in the world. And that was all because of the Waterwell work. So I had a very strong mission that I was going to help in my small little minute way, trying to change the convo about what the fuck we are and who we are. Not just Iranians, but all peoples. Do you know what I mean? Just the voiceless. And so in a way, it was really easy for me at 25, 26 to tell that big agency with like no credits, I'm not playing terrorist roles. I'm not playing victim roles. And that was like in 2005 and 6. And so, good news is I haven't done any of that, Bad news is it was many, many lean years.
Yeah.
Poverty.
Tell us a few. I mean, I've asked every single one of my guests,
please,
about I call it the pictures in the album allegory. Is like we see all the pictures of the smiley faces, or when you got this and this, that's the album. But all the gaps in between that get you there. Tell us a little bit about the lineage, because there's a lot of actors, creatives right now watching this who already knew how hard it is. Now we're talking about post-COVID-19 world where we don't know. Tell us a little bit about how you navigated through, quote unquote, the lean times because of your choices and values and all that.
I mean, to be blunt, 100% blunt, it was lean until Guards of the Taj at the Atlantic. It was lean. I mean, I was nominated for a Tony Award, and after it was done in 2011, I had no representation. You know what I mean? Right. I've been on every, possible government aid that we can. I had kids I was 28 years old when I had my first kid. You know what I mean? Like shit, it was lean. The majority of it was lean.
Yeah.
And I think the Waterwell business acumen of knowing that you're going to fail a lot was really kind of imparted. It goes back to that quote. Like,
Rodriguez.
You're going to do this, you're going to fucking have to be shitty a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm a Jordan fan. I grew up in Jordan 90s. And so like we all knew the sophomore year school story.
Yeah.
Everybody fucking in Chicago knew the story. Like sophomore year, he didn't get in. He did tens of thousands of free throws one summer. and all of a sudden he is Michael Jordan. Like
Yeah.
So the lean years are tough. They lead to depression. They lead to fear. They lead to anger. They lead to they lead to all the fucking things that we know. But I'm very, very fortunate because even doing Bengal Tiger with Robin Williams, like Robin Williams, like the fucking biggest star ever. Like he was having the same fucking fears that I'm having right now.
Thank you for saying that, because it's
so it's different. It's different
stops.
levels, but it's the same bullshit.
All that changes is the names of the people getting the roles ahead of you. That's all that changes,
in the middle, it's so funny you say this. Remember what you're going to say. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do want to say this. One day we were doing the show, and then a Google alert came up about Robin Williams and Bengal Tiger, and it said that Robin Williams is going to be the next Joker in the new Batman series that day. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I go up to Robin. I was like, dude, you're going to be the next fucking Joker. Is that true? Congratulations. He goes, no, every 2 or 3 years, somebody leaks a fake story that I'm going to be the new Joker so that someone else's contract can come through.
Yes.
And I said, what?
What?
And he goes, yeah.
And that's a role he wanted to play also. That's what is so crushing. And it's all relative. Robin Williams can be going through that. Staying on Robin Williams, it's funny you say that, because another question of mine is about the life-work balance and life and work and how you stay sane. Because I remember meeting Robin Williams in Sydney. He came to see a show I was doing and meeting him backstage.
What was the show?
Chatting. I was doing Richard III with that Sam Mendes directed with Kevin Spacey. I was playing Buckingham.
Kevin Spacey and they talked about it. They talked about it when Kevin Spacey saw Bengal Tiger.
Buckingham opposite Kevin.
Oh, amazing! I would have loved to have seen that.
I remember him coming backstage, and everyone had to go see Robin with,
Sure.
But we were having a conversation, just me and him, and we were just talking normally. And then when everyone came into the room, it became he couldn't do that. He had to crack a joke every other. You experience this, the performative side, and to the point where he was almost sweating with the performance of it.
Yeah,
and I felt sad. Do you know what I mean? I felt sad for him because he was funny, he was hilarious, but it was a constant thing. And I feel that he's someone that I didn't know him beyond that setting, but the fact that someone as big as that still performed in that way in a completely non-performative setting backstage after he's seen a show and whatever, I remember feeling very sad. And I just wonder whether that the story you just told about him is typical, but how the importance of making sure that you've got your shit together in your life if you're going to ever have a chance of longevity at a sane longevity in this profession,
Yeah, I mean, Robin, in that way, I think Robin genuinely loved to make people laugh.
Laugh, yes.
I think he got off on it.
Yeah.
I think he was addicted to making people laugh. And how I describe his mind working is like, here is like a phone, right? And you and I look at it and you're like, another fucking iPhone. But he looks at it and he's like, here's an iPhone. It's got a case on it. Someone made the case. The case was in China. The people that made it in China make 2 cents an hour. He's like took every nth of where the person made this thing came, because he was looking, because a great comic, again, goes back to, I know it's a buzzy word, but it's the truth. It goes back to knowing every empathetic person of like every voiceless person. And so, I think he really got off on making people happy. When I went to a 60th birthday party in Marin County, like in San Francisco area, and the people that my wife and I were there, and we're like, who's gonna fucking show up? Like, who's gonna show up? Like, who are the fucking famous people that are gonna show up to this thing? And what was really kind of incredible was the majority of the people there were the people of his neighborhood, the people that his old, like all the people that worked on his ranch, on his farm. he just was, he liked helping people. I tell this story often, but, you know, at Bengal Tiger was at the Rogers, which is where Hamilton's at. And so, you know, like every night there would be 5,000 people outside waiting for an autograph. You can only imagine. And he would sign every single person's. Every single, he'd show up an hour early, do 2 hours of do a 2-hour show and do an hour of signing.
Wow.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm like nobody, and I'm kind of like, what is, and he's just like,
you're
signing
like, no, you're like, no autographs, not tonight.
No autograph for the meeting. No, he's like totally like fucking signing everyone's fucking autograph. It's like unbelievable. And sometimes, you know, if you were on the list, you come on the stage, and sometimes there would be this guy with like a mohawk. I remember there was this African-American guy, huge mohawk, piercings, leather jacket. And I was just waiting on the stage. I was like, who, you know, and I was like, I'm sorry, do you need help? Anything? Who you're here to see? And he's like, Robin Williams saw that man as a homeless man in San Francisco, got him in rehab, flew him out to see the show. That's who Robin Williams was.
Well, so, I'm glad that you're giving us an insight into his personal life, because
he was the nicest person.
I mean, it's that sort of thing where I just sort of felt he seemed he'd given us so much in the world that I wanted to see him in that moment, just not keep giving, but I guess that was his nature, to keep giving.
I think it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you didn't do that, he was a prick, you know. But, you know, when we were in rehearsal, he was just a guy. He was just a guy rehearsing. I mean, he cracks some jokes, but we talked about real things. Like, you know, he had real insecurities about life, you know. Who's
been, like, apart from Robin, clearly, who have been some of your other inspirations in this industry?
That's such a great question. It's a great question. It's a question I've been asked before, but, you know, I take inspiration from people like you and people that do things. I mean that. Like, I take inspiration from, like, all of the people that, like, get up, do a fucking thing. This is hard. What you're doing right here with 48 participants is, like, a hard thing to do. Whether you might see, so it's like, that is inspiring. Like, you got up, you took a fucking idea, you made that idea happen. That inspires me. That keeps me going. You know, I'm like a huge, ridiculous, like, it's like an artistic side. Like, I'm a huge Cassavetes fan. Like, that's artistically, that's like kind of like where I want to like lie in my work, kind of, hopefully. And, you know,
tell us a bit about that, the lie in your work with Cassavetes. That's sort of the acting without acting, the living a role. You know? Tell us a little bit about that with how you approach your work.
Yeah, I mean, for, you know, like for Succession, for example, like, I mean, everyone on the show is, and everyone's so brilliant on the show.
I mean, what a cast. What a friggin' cast. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Genius. But the you know, we're desperately trying to make these as realistic human beings as ever, like legitimately trying to make them so authentically real that you don't even recognize that acting's happening. And that does take a lot of, you know, push, and that takes a lot of, like, you know, I'm very fortunate. One is I've done my 10,000 hours, I've done my 15 shitty things, and I've done that like 45 times over. So, like, a lot of it is like knowing now that, like, what to do and what not to do. You know, that's one huge part of it. It's like just getting older and getting wiser, I think.
Yeah.
And then another part of it is just you really being comfortable with, like, who the fuck I am. Like, this is what what you see is what you get. Like, this is what it is, you know. And for work like Bengal Tiger or The Humans or you know, or Succession, like, I'm not judging the characters. They're not great characters, not bad characters. They're not good characters. They're just people. And I try to find the messy inside of there, you know, and try to find the heart of it all. You know, when I was doing Bengal Tiger with Rajiv, you know, he had the, you know, very famous, that turned out to be a very famous line, you know, where this, you know, soldier is asking this topiary artist from Iraq, and who's now a translator, and being told to do, you know, despicable things. He's like, I'm not a translator, dude. Like, I'm not a translator. And Rajiv wrote this line. He's like, and he goes, yeah, so what the fuck are you? That's what Glenn Davis's character is like, what the fuck are you? And I say, I'm an artist. And in the thing, he wrote it as like one line, like, I'm an artist, and it kept on going. And I remember, like, as we were getting on our feet, like, it kept on sparking something in me. Like, to be an artist, and now that's been degraded to be a fucking translator for, you know, like, the messiness of just this
Mm-hmm.
world, and how lucky, honestly, we all are.
Yeah.
And then I just kept on pushing what the word artist means, and then it turned into like the first time that like he broke down, and I wasn't like planning for that to be the end product. I actually didn't even know, but I
Yeah.
just kept on understanding what the word artist mean and what it meant to say it at this time.
Yeah.
With the stakes so high, and every time it would just get harder and harder for me until like Rajiv and I talked, and I ended up saying it 2 times. I am an artist.
Yeah.
I am an artist, and that it turned into a moment. So I let the words and the society and my feelings about something, and like, and understanding how fucking lucky we all are just to even be fucking doing this. I mean, like, at the Waterwell education program, at the Waterwell Drama School, right now we have online classes for public school students. 220 students. Some of our students, in New York City, don't have the device to get on our classes. Do you know what I mean? Like, we are so lucky. And so I try to find that moment of, and try to like see what's inside what I call what's inside that pocket. Like, I'm going to go in the pocket. I'm going to see what's in there. And eventually I'm going to see that the seam is broken. I'm going to rip that open. And now all of a sudden I'm going to be in another pocket. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I approach it. It's not really like linear. It's funny because all my scenes in Succession are with the incredible and hopefully soon to be Emmy nominated Jeremy Strong. Excuse me. He has a different process. Yeah. And he's completely method. In character all the time. His protege. I mean, he's a protege of Daniel Day-Lewis. Am I using that word right? He like assisted. Yeah. And he is all in character. He calls me Stu. It's like all in all the time. He never gets out, right? And I'm the complete opposite of that. I'm like I like it loose and light, and so what do I care what your process is? If the product is good, what the fuck do I? It's like spirituality. What do I care if it's Islam or Christianity? If you found that inner peace that is or theater or like atheism. Yeah. If that's the thing that's making you like go cool, like that's the thing that you should do. Like, who am I to judge that? And so I love working with actors that have a completely different process, so we can have these two value systems like collide with each other and see what the fuck's in there. My wife says not to use my hands in Zoom meetings like this.
Oh no, I think it's wonderful. It's great too. I have that thing sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
The you come onto something like Succession, and you're looking at that room and you talk about how you are all trying to make this as real as possible.
Yeah.
Was there a collective conversation about that? I
don't think so.
It's so weird. It seems normal. I guess it seems more expected in a rehearsal room where you talk about the language of the piece. But something in film, my experience of TV and film is that the idea that on a whole ensemble have this sense of what they're all trying to do. Yeah. Not necessarily story-wise, but in performance-wise, is quite, it's quite exceptional, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, I'm very, very lucky to be on the show. I think a lot of it's in just the casting of it.
Casting, right.
I mean, I think I was supposed to do 2 episodes in season 1. Wow. And then I ended up doing 7 or 8 or something.
Nice.
And I think they just started writing towards me and getting me to kind of like go towards that relationship. And I think a lot of it is because they're seeing what we're bringing to the table and amplifying it in some way, and just kind of like, so in that way, I'm very, very lucky that I found the right group of people and individuals. And another way is, I will be honest with you, when we were shooting the last 2 episodes of the wedding scene, which was in England, like I've only had scenes with Kendall at that point. I've never had scenes with anyone else. Yeah. And so, or maybe a couple with Brian Cox. But then I had to kind of like look at some of the other actors. I was like, how are you guys acting this show? Because I have I'm doing a completely quiet little thing. Like, what, are you guys doing that too?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what? Yeah, I haven't seen your work. Like, are we on the same baseball team? Or, And then we started doing these big fucking group numbers, and you're like, oh, we're all on the same team. So a lot of it is casting, and a lot of it is, you know, the writers are writing towards us and instead of like against us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like kind of like, you know, landing us towards that instead of trying to like push away from it. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I think we never had like a conversation of like, we're going to talk about, you know, despicable people. You know, to be blunt with you, I had another one of these meetings maybe last week, and someone said, I fucking hate Stewie. Stewie is the biggest fucking asshole prick I've ever fucking seen in my whole fucking life, right? And then hours later, I'm on a phone call, you know, Waterwell's doing a phone call, and then we got off the phone, and this person that I was talking to with like Waterwell nonprofit stuff was like, can I just say Stewie is the only character on the show that I like? And it's because we actors are not trying to fucking, I'm going to make my guy evil, or I'm just doing my version of what I think this looks like to be true.
Yes.
And it's up to you to decide how The Humans was the same way.
Yeah.
The Humans was the same way. Richard Saad, this rich, privileged, but his last name was Saad, Middle Easterner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to deal with how to deal with me now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And the complexity. And then all of a sudden, who's dealing with, like, massive depression? It's like, you're the one that has to deal with what I look like. Yeah. And then and so your DNA is what you're putting on. And so I feel that about Succession. I think one of the reasons why it works is people put their fucking DNA onto us. There's so many people on Twitter that are like, Kendall and Stewie have been boyfriends in the past. I will tell you this, never has it been mentioned, but never are we going to be like, wow, why? No, it's just like, that's the DNA that you put on it. And great writing, they don't spell it out for you.
Yeah.
You know
I mean, I often think that, and it's a very brave thing to do because it requires so much trust in yourself and being you but trust in that you are enough. A couple of my guests have said that thing of you're enough.
You're enough.
But really the best acting is presenting the most potential filled canvas for the audience to paint whatever the hell they want to paint. That's the best acting. It's the hardest, it's the bravest to do, and it's the hardest to do. It's very hard. My goal is to present, it's going to be a really rich canvas. You're going to want to paint on this. It's going to give you options to either use watercolors or oils or charcoal. I'm going to give you, but ultimately, a canvas for you to fill in. And that's a very hard thing to do and to trust, isn't it? You know?
Absolutely. I say this to students all the time. And you said it, like, I see them come on stage and they present a scene or something, and there's something about that they're holding back on. Yeah. And I was just like, I think you just need to let that go. Yeah. And they're like, well, I don't know how to let that go. And I was like, I completely understand. But like, that's going to be your life journey. Yeah. To be like, fuck it. This is it. Yeah. You can love it. You can fucking hate it. But this is it. This is all that I got. And some of it's beautiful, hopefully. And some of it's really ugly, sadly. But it is what it fucking is. And you are, I say this, I was like, I just want you to know you are worthy. You are absolutely fucking worthy of making that choice. Yeah. Yeah. No, you know, the judgment is hard, but know that it never ends. You know, I have this, I kind of, and then maybe we could jump into questions. I want to leave with.
No, we have time. Don't worry. We started a bit late, so we have time. Take your time. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a name dropping story, y'all.
I love those.
Yeah. I had the unbelievable honor and privilege to do this really amazing movie with Bill Murray, where we were the two leads.
Casbah, right?
Rock the Casbah, yeah.
Rock the Casbah, yeah.
And just to get you, again, to all the actors out there, when I got the job, the conversation that I was being told by everyone in the industry is, are you ready for your life to change? Your life is gonna be boom, and you better pop, 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 pop. Okay. So just goes to show you no one knows what the fuck they're talking about. And if they did, and I say that because at the time, I might be in Bill Murray's like worst movie ever made. I don't think so. Garfield. I think it's fucking sweet.
I think it's Garfield, mate.
And you did Garfield. Yeah. I think it's a sweet movie. But, you know, for some people, it might be the worst Bill Murray. Some people like, Bill Murray was in a movie called Rock the Casbah. Doesn't matter. So we're doing this thing. It's me and him, you know, for basically 2 months in Morocco. And And, you know, on a tough day on a film set, 155 million degrees outside, 6-7 pages is all you can do on a film set. And then it's a Friday and it's an overnight and they have like 11 and a half pages. And it's like never going to fucking happen. And it's like 2 a.m. and we're in a Berberi village. Not a Berberi village. Am I saying that wrong? A Bedouin village.
Bedouin village. Okay.
A Bedouin
I
village.
pictured tents with Berberi.
Yeah, me too. That's what I was like. It looks like
okay.
No,
maybe that's what they did. I didn't see the movie. So.
We're in this Bedouin, like an hour and a half from like society, Marrakesh.
Yeah.
And it's 2 a.m. and we have a 3-page scene and it's crucial that we shoot this and it's supposed to be in the middle of the night. And Barry Levinson's our director and he comes out and he says, yo, we're going to do this in a 3-page one take. And then we'll do it 2 or 3 times and hopefully we get it in there. Cool. Theater guy, Bill Murray is an improviser. We do it. Fuck it. We do 2-3 takes. It's done. But then after the 3rd take, Barry Levinson comes out. He's like, you fucking did it. Awesome. We can go. It's like maybe 5 a.m. or something or 4 a.m. And Bill Murray says, we're going to do one more. And he's like, well, we have time. So Barry goes away. And then Bill Murray looks at me and he goes, and it's just him and I. And he goes, we're going to do this one more time. And after we do this scene, they're going to pack up the tents. They're going to coil all these wires. They're going to tear down the lights. They're going to put us all in the van. All the extras are going to go, or not extras, all the people, all the human beings, the crew members are going to go into a truck. And we are never coming back here ever again. For the rest of your life, you're never coming back here. So in this next take, do whatever the fuck you want to do. So there's no fucking regrets. And I was like, got it. Because, you know, as an actor, especially the fucking high tense, sometimes you don't do all of the big choices because you're like,
you're scared. And then you're 2 days later, you're in bed in another city and you go, mother, that was it, you know? Yeah.
So that take is in the movie.
Yeah. Great.
And that take is in the movie. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Arian, I could keep asking questions. But I think that's a perfect place to stop, to opening it up for questions and all that. So Michelle.
Yes. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Hit it.
Okay. So we've got some great questions. This is one of my favorites, though. This is from Alana. Was the smelling of the lavender in the Succession finale, was that improvised or planned?
That was definitely improvised. Right before the shot, we don't rehearse in Succession, and we rarely rehearse, I should say. And then and we shoot on camera. We shoot on film. We shoot 3 cameras on film. So there's a lot of pressure already just to get it right. You only have like 3 to 5 takes, like max per setup, and then you got to move on because film you can only do so much. And right before the first AD, Krista, who I'm actually working also on Inventing Anna with, Krista was like, we're ready to go, all right, here we go. And it's like the last minute things. And Monica, who is our props master, she put the last little touch of food on my plate, like some octopus or something, and then she goes away, and I'm just watching it, and I have no idea how this is going to go. I have no idea how that scene's going to go. First take. And then Monica says she has this lavender in her hand, because then we shot in Croatia, where lavender is like very potent, and she goes to Christo, she goes, smell this. And then she and someone, and this is where I'm getting messed up. Christo either did it for Monica or Monica. Anyway, I saw Monica's face smell it, and I saw from a distance her face reverberate. And I said, let me smell that. And I grabbed it, and then he said, action. And I just put it on the table. And then when Brian kept on going that monologue, I just picked it up, and then I just kept it. It was completely like
being alive,
just being there. He's talking to you. He's coming to me, asking me for my money again. Which also, how many times has fucking the Roys come over to Stewie Husseini's house and been like, "Can I get some more fucking money?" It's like, and so this time I was like smelling some lavender while doing it, and I kept on saying, if I knew it would blow up like it did, I would have done that 15 years ago.
All right. Next question.
Okay, this next question is from Colby. Did you have any experiences of feeling left on the back burner once you joined a large agency?
Great question. To be quite honest, no, they really, I was so, and I still am very water well driven. You know, that's my first and foremost like decision-making tool, not acting. And so the moment I got signed, I kind of like forced the agency to like also represent Waterwell in an unofficial, official way. And which I think at one point one of the agents was like, I don't think I know what that means, but
Waterwell Theater Group. Okay.
Okay, fine, sure.
Yeah, okay.
But I used it. You know, I used it in grant applications, and our next show was an O'Neill play that was like, you know, they represented the agency represented the O'Neill estate, and so in that way, I kind of used the agency for that. And you know, when there was no terrorist roles, and there's, you know, and when you say no to terrorist roles and you say no to victim roles, I mean, there's not that many more jobs for us because they don't see us in any other pocket until recently. And so at that time period, I kind of ended up like doing like a shit ton of like pilot, you know, like sitcoms, oddly, like auditioning and like testing for a bunch of sitcoms. I booked one sitcom for Spike Lee when I was like 26 or 27, and that was like a drama. But overall, I just kind of tested and like never really booked anything, to be blunt. And
I'm pretty certain that I will go my whole career and never be able to book a sitcom.
Do you think so?
I'm awful. It's like I'm awful. The only way I will ever book a sitcom is if they hire me because they want to work. If I go through in any way even playing field audition process for a sitcom, forget it. I suck. You know,
wow.
I suck.
I find that hard to believe. I find that hard to believe.
All right, next question.
Okay, next question is from Maria. What are ways in which you keep your characters alive as well as sustainable during an 8-week show run?
Yeah.
Or eight shows a week, sorry.
Yeah. The Humans, I ended up doing 520 shows. And I could have done another 500. The real luck of that show, and I think, you know, and how I kind of like, is that I rely on my partners and just try to be truthful to them. And if that truth is still popping and there's no cynicism and bitterness, I think we can constantly be on. And so the Humans was that, you know, I had 6 glorious actors, you know. Jane Howdyshell never gives, you know, she always gives everything, every step. I don't care if it's the 8th show of the week or the ridiculous like 12 show, you know, Christmas week show shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and so when I'm down, I'm fucking like, oh God, I don't want to fucking do this. I just look in everyone else's eyes and someone's out there wanting to fucking play.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, again, I'm a huge Jordan 90s fan. And watching Last Dance, like, you know, he was kind of like, every fucking game, I'm trying to fucking win this. Yeah. I don't give a shit. I'm trying to win.
But he would know, the thing, using the Jordan analogy, he would know when his team needed him. And he would know when he could be just, and I think that's a great allegory for doing these shows. Sometimes you put the pressure, how do I do this? How do I? It's not you. It's the whole team's doing it. And sometimes you just need to be there.
That's right.
To see what happens.
Just
and then you know when you know when your moment comes to step it up, a bit like Jordan, which is usually in the 4th quarter trailing by 20 points. And it's like, all right, I'm going to do this. And he's ready for it then. You know, it's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's really kind of the hope. And, you know, I get asked a lot, and I'm really humbled by this question. And I hope it doesn't sound, you know, gross in any which way, but I get asked a lot, like, how do you always pick like the best projects? And a lot of it is I'm trying to pick. I'm trying to like put myself out there for project with people that I want to work alongside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like Stephen Karam and I were roommates at the Utah Shakespearean Festival in 2002. And he and I had been trying to work together. Joe Mantello, I met Joe when I was doing Bengal Tiger and he was doing Normal Heart as an actor. So I don't have that director relationship with him. I just have an actor-actor relationship with him. And so when the Humans came, I was like, why wouldn't I want to work with a man that is striving for excellence?
Yeah.
And that striving for excellence is something that I believe in. Maybe it's my immigrant mentality, but you know, at our school, you know, Waterwell runs the professional performing arts drama program in Midtown Manhattan, and the 3 E's is excellence, engagement, and empathy. And all three of those things we've been saying for a decade, all three of those things have to be pumping at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And striving for excellence is hard because it goes back to what we were talking about. You're going to fail a lot.
Yeah.
It's very easy to say, I'm worthless. You
Yeah.
say it. I still say it. You know what I mean? I'm fucking worthless.
I wonder, I often, you know, that phrase, fake it till you make it, that
Yeah.
it has negative connotations sometimes, but the older and the more I do this, I don't know if you feel it, you realize how much of that is that long before I was in any position, if you're thinking whatever measures people measure things with, financially or status or well-known, certainly me and my team were saying no to things that you're crazy. Well, I mean, the actors I've been working 10 to with, and I'm there freaking out, saying no, but you're faking a sense of the actor you are. It's like you've arrived before you've arrived. Do you know what I mean? It's that sense. And it's weird because I was lucky because I had a team around me that almost did that for me, even if they were ahead of me. They would make the decision even before I did, because sometimes I need time to go away and kiss away the money that I was saying no to, or kiss away the work. And I need a moment to just come to terms. But they were making it for me in many ways. But I think you don't wait till you're there to make those decisions. I think you almost have to fake it till you make those decisions as if you were there, right? And that's what's guided you through those choices. Those saying no to all that stuff.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, the reality is we're all, I am, again, I hate to go back to immigrant stuff, but I am the only family on my mom or my dad's side that's in the United States of America. My mom has 6 brothers and sisters. My dad has 5 brothers and sisters. Like, it's a fucking miracle. And so I'm going to die one day. And I don't want to fucking turn around and be like, why didn't I fucking blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so I got to risk. And in that mentality, it is a choice. I mean, Mr. Rogers said it all the time. He's like, sometimes I want to fucking yell and scream, but sometimes I have to be like, well, I'm going to push through this fucking thing. And artists need to do that all the time because we're not subsidized. We don't have any fucking security blanket. In 5 years, I can be completely in the opposite realm of where we have, how many actors do we know that have risen to the top and are like trying to get
continuously and stayed there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's so many fucking like variants of this. And so, in Persian, before Islam, Iran was a Zoroastrian country, and their basic tenets that hasn't been like destroyed throughout the thousands of years that we were talking about earlier, that hasn't gone away, is good thoughts, good words, good deeds. That's the game. That's the whole fucking game. And I also that's one thing, and that relates to, I have a class called The Artist as Citizen that I do at the school sometimes, and sometimes I bring in a guest artist, and I brought Terrell.
Oh, wow, Terrell, yes.
And Terrell to talk to our students, and he was like, he said August Wilson told him that great art runs on 3 cylinders. Now, if you remove the word art and put in the word life, like a great life, runs on 3 cylinders: the interpersonal, how 2 people interact with one another; the global, and global could be the United States. It could also mean like my AA community or my my theater community, whatever that community is. And then the next one could be and the bigger one is the spiritual. And that's really good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Do you know what I mean? And the spiritual is what we as actors are so scared of because we have no fucking safety net. There's no one that's out there that's going to be like, trust me, at the end of this 10 years, you're going to be on a fucking hit TV show. Who says that, when, where, and why? I mean, it's impossible. Yeah. And so the spiritual gets pushed down and pummeled, and and so what we have to fucking do is keep investing.
Keep it up.
Keep the investing in the spiritual.
Yeah, and the trust. The whatever words do you have spiritual?
Whatever the fucking thing is. Yeah.
There's all those words, but it's that thing. Yeah. That's Next question, Michelle.
Okay, I'm gonna direct this back to theater a little bit more because. Go
for it, please.
One of the ways that you and I first met was through the Shakespeare Society, which is also how Chuck and I first met. And
amazing.
We were working on Waterwell's production of Hamlet at that time, which was kind of an amazing mixture of Persian culture and Farsi in the text and everything like that. And I mean, I met you in 2012, and that production didn't happen until 2016. And I know you've been working on it before then. Can you talk about like what that journey was, getting it, you know, to actually happening?
Yeah, talk about failure. You know, we thought we had a show that everyone wanted a fucking piece of. You know what I mean? I mean, I thought it was going to be a show that every theater company wanted to like put on. Like Waterworld didn't have to do all the legwork, but you know, everyone gets marginalized at times, and Waterworld had to put it up, and we put it up ourselves, and it was glorious, and it had to happen in the way that it had to happen, and it kind of was like magical, and it kind of like was the greatest thing I've ever, you know, Waterworld. I mean, for me personally, selfishly, it's the greatest thing I've ever done. You know, the production. You know, it's hard to get people to realize that we as Iranians or Persians or Middle Easterners or whatever your ism is that we're just fucking people. And sometimes it's hard to like convince the bigger names above us to be like, dive in to do a fucking production about 19, and now I'll tell you about it. It was set in 1917 Tehran.
Yeah.
At a time where all of the leaders of Iran were all about westernizing, cars, phonograph, like everything, electricity, like do it up. Jackets came in, you know, suits came in, mustaches came in. It like all of a sudden turned into Europe. And there was even conversations about making English the primary language of Iran by Iranians. By Iranians. How messy is that? So we set it there. So everyone's dressed up like we're fucking, you know, gonna, you know, and like we're in Europe. Yeah. And then the ghost of Hamlet comes and he only speaks to me in traditional Farsi gear. And then Hamlet then all of a sudden says, holy shit, I must make myself the most Iranian ever. So all of a sudden he dresses like 100 years prior, like he's dressed up like as an 1817 Iran.
And that's what people see as mad.
Yeah. And what they're seeing is, no, motherfucker, this is who I am. This is who I am. And so now all of a sudden, you have this Iranian that's trying to be more Iranian in a society that's Iranian that's trying to be more Western. That's interesting because that's real. That's what fucking happened. Like people were having those deep conversations in 1917 Iran. And so then, because Waterworld is really civic minded, we went after all of these Iranian groups, Iranian American Law Association, you know, a children's school that's teaches, and they all came and saw the show. So every night, half of the show were like theater industry folks, and the other half were Iranians, some of which have never seen theater before, some of which have never seen Iran anything before 1979 because the Iranian Islamic government doesn't allow that.
Yes.
So now all of a sudden Iranians are like, wait, did that really happen to us? And it's like, yeah, dude. You know, so both Iranians and Americans are getting to see something that they didn't know about. Yeah. And also every night, this is the biggest exciting thing. Every fucking night when Gertrude drank, played by the unbelievable Sherry Renee Scott, every night where she drank, someone in the audience went, no. Yeah. Because some Iranians had never seen Hamlet before.
Yeah.
So it was.
I mean, that's beautiful. I think that it's funny you say how it's. Sorry, I'm jumping in.
No,
We'll go longer. There is something about that role, though, Arian. I mean, for me, it's the only role. Practice as much as I can with generosity. It's the only role I'm not yet ready to let go of. And see, it's like so. Anyone ask me what's the greatest role you've ever, and I'll just say Hamlet. And again, maybe it was the context. You had this story of early 20th century Iran. The Hamlet we did was very steeped in Black Lives Matter.
Wow.
Where taking the hoodie off to hold up the skull of Osric is so symbolic. You know what I mean? And it is that thing of people, because we taught it around prisons and stuff. And I'll never forget two things that happened, but one of the ones I'll never forget is at the beginning of Doing To Be or Not To Be, To Kill Myself or Not, and the way we played it was, you know, about to shoot up.
Wow.
And in Rikers, where guys, they haven't even been charged yet, but they're just there for the rest of their freaking lives, you know. Yeah, I remember a guy sitting in the front big, like, and I started to do that, and I just remember him just going,
Oh, wow.
and that's a guy that is probably going to spend the rest of his life in prison, but still valued life enough to say, mate, don't do it. His experiences like that, like you talked about.
Of course.
So it's not just about him, but it's the context of where you played it. And I think that play, that character allows for that. It's the ultimate blank tapestry, you know, the blank canvas in a weird way. Because you can never, if you screw up your Hamlet, you don't deserve, you really can't. You might not please everyone all of the time, but you're gonna please some of the people some of the time in Hamlet, because it's that sort of role, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, another question.
I feel the exact same way about it. No, I feel
the same way.
Yeah.
Do you feel that same possession about it? The possessiveness about, not possessiveness, but that same. It's one I would go back to play. I almost don't need to play anything else I've ever done, but I'd go back to do that one.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I know exactly what you mean. Like it's deeply rooted to me in an Iranian tradition, my Hamlet.
Yeah.
Like, so when I see Hamlet, I think of Iran. Yes. And that's why it's a brilliant fucking play.
Yeah.
Because there's no possible way that most people are like, is Hamlet about Iran?
Next question.
Okay, this question is from Julian. How, especially during the lean years with all the demands of family, did you manage to continue to run Waterwell and persist in your career? Did you find a way to harmonize both?
Yeah, I mean, I say this all the time. Waterwell I was the co-founder, and I did it with the incredible Tom Ridgely. But the truth of the matter is that it is a community of people that are making this happen. It's a community of actors, and it's a community of artists and educators and producers. And so when, you know, like the Jordan analogy that you were saying earlier, that, you know, sometimes when you're down, the rest of the team picks up, and when you're up, the rest of the team, you know, like it's a flow. You know, I know what that question is entailing, and I understand that question, and in a way. And I don't know how this sounds, but it's how I think of myself, how I would answer it as a 40-year-old Iranian immigrant, is that all of that stuff, that even the lean years where, you know, government support and, you know, no insurance and like fucking like rough times, none of that seemed really as difficult as growing up as an immigrant in this country. And so like, that's my perspective. Like, it was harder being an immigrant. It just was. It's hard. It was harder for my mom and my dad. It just was. And so I don't see them as like roadblocks. I kind of see them as like obstacles, you know, something to like, you know, maneuver around and or push through, not like a way to like put it up. And so when it gets lean, I just work harder. You know, Tom said this to me, and he hates that I always credit this for it, but like Tom says to me when we were kids, he goes, the only things that really effing matter are, you know, hard fucking work and love, you know, and that's really kind of how I think of things, you know. And so when it gets lean, I think of it's lean, it's harder for someone else somewhere. You know, and so I just pushed fucking through. You know, I get young students all the time that graduate our high school program and then want like professional classes or master classes. And they're like, well, how do I get this play up on the ground? Like, how do I like get this play and get the rights and and blah, 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 and put it up in the theater and get an audience? I said, listen, I don't know really what the answer to that is, but you just do it. Yeah. The answer is, you know, you do it. You just fucking do it. Lee Sunday Evans' mom, Lee Sunday Evans is our artistic director at Waterwell, who did an amazing job with Fleet Follies this weekend, which we will send. Michelle, please, I want to send some.
Yeah, I can.
That would be amazing. Is that her mom says to her, you know, sometimes you got to swallow the frog. Sometimes you just got to be like, it sucks. This fucking sucks, but it's not the hardest thing in the world, and you just swallow it and get it over with. And so those people that I think that push through those questions and those, you know, roadblocks and make them obstacles are the way that I think actual success actually happens. You know, look at the biggest names. They're all got a production company. They all got 5 fucking volunteer jobs, or I'm sorry, like places that they're trying to help out. They're all fucking doing ba ba ba. It's because every step of the way they've been pushed harder, more. And that's how I think I have like even a modicum of success. It's because I just push through all that.
And they all will mention when they were, Tom Hanks was saying when he was a bell, I've worked in every one of those hotels leading up to the airport.
Yeah, that's right.
As a bellhop. Everyone's done it. And it's that Buddhist thing of how do you get through your grief and stuff, is recognizing millions of people are going through exactly the same thing at the same time as you. And I think in the artistic world, it's recognizing that. And some days it's easier to recognize that than others. But it is recognizing that. It is recognizing that there's nothing unique about your struggles as an artist, and it's synonymous with an artist, you know?
Yeah, it's part of the, you know, question that I get asked all the time by young actors. Can you imagine? How do I get an agent, right? You've heard that. 45 minutes. How do you get an agent? I say, my response is, listen, there's a reason why an agent gets 10%. Because they do 10% of the work.
Wow, that's a good one.
The 90% is you. So like, why are you worried about the 10% of someone else? Worry about the 90% of you. Yeah. Like, that's where you should put your fucking energies. Like, because they're going to do, if they wanted to do 50% of the work, they take 50% of your cash. And that's not a good business model for them.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? Otherwise, they'd fucking do that.
Even for Stewie would even suggest that.
Exactly.
Michelle, I mean, is there one more question? Can we wrap up?
Yeah, I'm going to ask one more question.
One more question, okay.
I'm going to relate it back to Atlantic.
You're making the last question about you?
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Okay. Well, that's, Arian and I have also, you know, run into each other so many times in the last few years there. You premiered Guards of the Taj there. You were one of the Immigrant Mix Fest last year. You were one of the main, oh my gosh, what's the word?
Curators.
Yeah, curators for that and things like that. And I just think a lot of actors, in terms of like how nonprofit theater works and what the relationship is with nonprofit theater between actors and fundraising and how you're part of that. Like, how do you see your role as an actor, not just being on the stage, but being a part of that bigger community in nonprofit theater?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michelle. I feel like that is the 90%. You know what I mean? Like, that's the fucking work. I mean, like, we're not getting so much support all the time. You know, it's not like there's like pockets of money that are just diving into the nonprofit, any world, theater, art, dance. Like, you gotta work hard. And I understand I said this earlier, but just this, you guys setting it up and 45 amazing human beings listening, it's work. It's hard work. I mean, it might be not the hardest of work, it might be, but it takes energy and time and effort. And like, I think we have to be supportive of that. Otherwise, if you live in an isolated bubble, you know, when you go off and you're going to be at those last days and you're looking up, you're going to have no one around you to say that I loved or that loved me. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be all alone over there. And so the theater doesn't work in that way. You cannot not care about other people and the crew and every person that was, you know, working on Guards of the Taj at the Atlantic was meaningful to me. Those conversations were meaningful to me because it takes a community to make this shit happen. And so for me, it's, you know, it's the least that I can do. I mean, I'm not even sacrificing or giving up that much time. Like, Immigrant Mix Fest was fun, exciting. We read a bunch of plays, but like, how much of my life did I give up for that? Not much in the grand scheme of things. I don't think it's even going to be on the radar at the end. So like, for me, what is that little bit of work to get a couple of immigrants that have never had their work premiere and change the people of how people think about immigrants? You know, like for Immigrant Mix Fest. I mean, one of the cool things about Immigrant Mix Fest is Kate Mulvaney, an Australian actress, wrote a play about immigration in Australia.
Yeah.
It's a big word, man. It doesn't just mean, you know, part of the thing is like dealing with that. And so that I find that really rewarding. And if one person can have a little kernel of like, I don't know, something, then it can like lead to another thing and lead to another thing, and that's the progress that we need to go, I guess.
Yes.
One more question.
I think we've run over by 15, but it's been
Oh my God, I am
absolute
so
delight.
sorry.
No, don't sorry. We're saying we're sorry for kept you longer. So I just want to say, Arian, I don't know why we haven't met until now. Michelle has spoken very highly of you. People in the industry have. And so it's wonderful to finally meet you. I feel very gratified by your conversation today. I feel it's a reminder of some of the things I think I know, but sometimes you need to hear again. So thank you so much for sharing your time. You're gifted as well as human as they come. And I look forward to your masterclass on Friday, I believe. Is that right,
Yeah,
Michelle?
it's Friday, right?
And everyone's going to be looking forward to that. It means a great deal to me that you gave up your time so enthusiastically. And all that. Michelle, can you open it up for everyone to say their thanks?
Absolutely stunning.
Awesome. Oh my God, there's so many amazing people here.
Thank you.
You're a wonderful storyteller.
Thank you.